off here. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Everybody's time is valuable, and I want to first off thank Café, Capriccio, and Franco for allowing us to host this event at the restaurant. Historically, been here 40 years in Albany. Coincidentally, so is ATEC. So kind of coincidence there. And also all you guys for joining us again, taking your time out of the evening. We're going to have a brief, 30-minute tech session, and then we'll get into actually making a pizza live so you can impress your friends and family. I want to thank NetApp and Fortinet and also the ATEC crew for all helping out pull this event together. Our goal tonight is to bring some awareness, high level, to some of the solutions that we offer from NetApp and Fortinet, and also show a little light on how we approach things from an ATEC perspective. Again, we've been in business 40 years, and we want to show some value to our customers and potential customers. ATEC's been around, again, like I said, 40 years. We are a traditional VAR in that we can sell all the hardware, software you might need, but we take a different approach. Our goal is to give visibility and just understanding where you are in order to create a productive plan to move forward in IT. And there's so many choices out there, and the IT landscape, as you all know, has been changing quite a bit lately. This was some housekeeping. Again, the first 30 minutes will be Fortinet and NetApp overview. I'll introduce one of our key ATEC people in a minute here or so. But it's high level. You can submit questions through the chat. On the tech side, we're going to wait till the 30 minutes are over to have a group discussion and question and answering. Once we get to the fun part with Franco, who you'll meet in a little while, we'll have the chat going all the time. So if you have a question on the dough or whatever, very knowledgeable. I think you're really going to enjoy the event. I'm looking forward to it. After the event's over, we will send out the actual presentation we did, and also do a professionally edited version with Lance Lane and Antonio, who are manning the cameras and the video here, so you can share with your friends, family, how to make this pizza at home. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything here. I think that's about it on that. So what I want to do is introduce one of our key guys, Rick Connolly. Rick does head up our assessment, discovery, and design of our architecture. So he just wants to give you a few minutes on kind of the approach that we take, put some structure to how we help customers, again, identify where they are. We have a lot of tools we use, including Fortinet CTAP, which you'll learn about later, and you can sign up to get a free one later after the event, and a bunch of other tools, some in-house, some through partners, but basically giving you an ability to understand where you are and where you should go. So if we can turn over to Rick. Rick's enjoying the sunny weather in Florida right now, so he's not virtually going to smell the pizza, but there he is.
I know. I wish I could smell said pizza. It's actually, we just had a storm roll through here a couple of minutes ago. The sky just went black and it opened up. It was crazy. So anyway, hey, everybody. My name is Rick.
You're on mute.
Oh. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. How's everybody doing? So sorry about that. So anyway, I'm Rick. I just joined ATEC here fairly recently. I've been in the IT community for about the last 20 years. I've worked in institutional IT for a while. I was a co-founder for a West Coast platform as a service startup. I was a CIO for a multinational digital agency specializing in digital transformation. But a lot of I'd say the lion's share of my IT experience has been primarily security focused. My very first IT job was actually at the Albany airport. So my IT experience was really honed by, Homeland Security and, FIPS compliance and things of that nature. So it's very procedurally driven. And that's what I'm bringing to the table here for ATEC. And what I want to talk about here today is the assessment toolkit that we've put together that we use to do these maturity assessments. So our assessment toolkit is built around a structured approach to understanding your IT assets and identifying areas of improvement that are missed using traditional IT discovery tools. The toolkit uses a combination of proprietary tools. We use Fortinet's Cyber Threat Assessment Program, or CTAP. We're also using some rapid fire tools and some other in-house developed checklists and procedures and best practices based on 40 years of institutional knowledge, with a focus, of course, on current IT paradigms. So our process is simple. We perform a detailed, highly structured discovery process, considering any kind of uniqueness that that your organization has, whether you're, online retail and you have PCI DSS, or if you're an educational institution that has FERPA and maybe some HIPAA. We can customize our approach based on the profile of your organization. And from there, we build out a maturity assessment that considers your security and disaster recovery posture. And then we kind of shine a light on the areas that need improvement with an execution plan to help you realize those improvement goals. So if you're trying to gain a better understanding of what you have, or where your areas of strength versus weakness are, reach out to us, and we can set something up. So with that said, I'd like to turn this over to Andrew, the Fortinet channel account
You want to
manager.
send it over to Joe first.
I'm sorry, was that
Joe first? We're gonna go over to Joe.
all right? Yeah. So we're gonna go to Joe.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Audio is good? Okay. Wanted to talk to you guys today about Cloud Insights, one of our products that, let me bring up the slide deck. So one of the products that we have that is very heterogeneously focused on many different data inputs. But the key things with Cloud Insights is, really we're going to monitor the infrastructure, whether it's in the cloud or on premise. We're going to secure it and we're going to optimize it. So let me just move to the next slide. So what is Cloud Insights? So it's exactly what I just said, really a product that measures performance on workloads, assets, whether they're in the cloud or on premise. It does a lot of things, right? So it can take a look at, your journey to the cloud or back from the cloud. We can right-size workloads. We can integrate with CMDBs such as ServiceNow, Open REST API. It's on a SaaS platform, so there's no maintenance on your side. Basically, we take care of everything and provide dashboards and queries and the like for you to gain more insights in your infrastructure and workloads, microservices. So some of the things that really are customer use cases, really reducing storage and compute spend, whether again it's on premise or in the cloud. Really trying to narrow down and stop the finger pointing when it comes to troubleshooting a heterogeneous environment, multiple tiers. You've got your compute stack, your storage, your networking. We kind of bring all that visibility in one place. Again, we're hardware agnostic, vendor agnostic as well. So we talked about monitor, secure, optimize it on a SaaS platform. Let me move to the next one. So monitor. Let me see. These are some of the data collectors that we support in Cloud Insights. You'll see, I know it's scrolling kind of quickly. Should go again. You'll see your traditional data center, storage, compute, and switch assets. Along with those, we also we monitor microservices, cloud assets in all three hyperscalers, AWS, Azure, and GCP, Google. We also even do down to operating systems metrics. So we can bring in another 200 plus metrics if you wanted to know something about a MacBook that's out there, or Linux system or Windows system. One of the big shifts that we've seen over the years is a little bit of a shift from the on-premise world of your hypervisors, whether it was Hyper-V or VMware and vSphere. A lot of customers are going to containers, and we have that capability as well in Cloud Insights. So we can actually look at relationships just like we do in the hypervisor world, where we're looking at relationship between CPU, memory, and persistent storage. We can help you troubleshoot those in the Kubernetes side of the world as well. So on the secure side, we have a product called Cloud Secure. That's part of the Cloud Insights suite. But really, we all know about ransomware, and the increasing risk is growing day by day. And the big thing with it is, how much is it going to cost your company to recover from a ransomware attack? So some of the things that you're looking at, 63% of those data breaches they happen from insider threats, and that's really what Cloud Secure really mitigates that risk. It's based on user behavior. I'll get it more into it. I want to show you a demo on it as well, a short demo. But really, it's a different product. We have a different methodology with it. We don't do signature based. We're usually utilizing artificial intelligence and machine learning to understand users' behavior. And this is really, our mantra with it. We're going to protect, detect, and recover. So we have ways in the product where we bring you visibility and alerting. We let you know that we can do some automation in the back end where we're actually kicking off snapshots. We're restricting users. And again, I'm going to show you that in the demo, which is coming up here. So I talked about the way we monitor detecting those anomalies with the machine learning and AI. The automated response policies, that's how we are mitigating that risk. We really base it on F policy, and then, like I said, user behavior. And we provide the forensics so that you can postmortem look at the details. And I will show you that as we go in the demo, which is next. So let me switch over to the demo environment. Give me 1 second here. There we go. So this is in Cloud Insights. This is what we call Cloud Secure. And when you go into Cloud Secure, into that portal, it's a very basic portal itself. We kind of start off with the alert screen, and we show potential attacks. On this screen, we give you a timeline of when they happen. You can also look at different set times that we have in here and custom times if you wanted to go back. There's 90 days of retention in this portal. So again, it's a rolling 90 days, but you can go back in time. But let's dig into like this first one so you can kind of see what data that it provides you. So we detected this about 16 hours ago. And again, this is a demo environment. So we're just, running a script to kind of show this to customers. And it will be different in every environment, but this is what it would look like. So action taken here, we took a snapshot. We have capabilities of restricting the user, like I had mentioned. I want to roll down the screen a little bit just to kind of give you a little bit more, and we'll get back to that. The total attack results affected 2 volumes, 1,100 encrypted files over this time frame. So it looks like it happened somewhere after 12. Looks like, I'm sorry, 11/11 it started. Then we go into the user piece, right? So we can correlate back to the action to a user. So we know it's this particular user, and this is based on the Active Directory or LDAP information that we get from this user. We know they're in the sales department, and then we kind of go into a little bit more history. One of the things I really like about the product is when we do invoke a snapshot, we tag it with the Cloud Secure tag. So if you're already running snapshots in the environment, you're going to have, you'll see the difference between the snapshots that are available. And then you can actually, go back and choose the ones you want to restore from. We're going into, let me scroll back up, we're restricting the user. So a couple things that we can do, we can completely block a user. We can make them read only. We can give them different time periods on where we block them. Anything from permanently up to 24 hours. Additionally, I wanted to show you some of the policies themselves. How do you create a policy and what's in there? So you can give it a unique name. You can choose whether that's file deletion or a ransomware attack for the type. You can go down to the SVM itself or all devices, so you can choose which devices that you want to monitor, and then taking snapshots default. But then this is where you can add in restrict the user, as I just showed you before. One of the other, let me go back. I want to show you on the files themselves. Give us a second. So you can actually look at all the forensics. There's great filtering built in. It presets some of the filters, but you can add, whatever filters you want on the data that you want to see. Looks like it's taking a minute here. No, we'll skip that. We'll go back. I thought it would be quicker than that. So let's go into, that's our response. This is what I want to hear. There we go. So we can go right into a alert and get more detail on that. So all this, all the details in here are you're able to get that information from REST API. So you can feed this information, like I had mentioned before, to something like Splunk or to your CMDBs, such as ServiceNow. Again, all open. Here we go. So there's some more detail. You can actually see the files that were taken, the path, what was renamed. In this case, these were encrypted files. So they're anything from exes, RARs, zips, CSVs. I mean, the whole gamut it supports, and it'll give you a list. Some of the things that we noticed when we showed this to customers was some internal maybe user errors, if you will. We had a user that maybe thought they copied files and they moved them. Since we file the changes in the product, we can actually help with restoring files as well and give locations, so help save time. That was a use case that kind of fell into our lap by accident as a result of the product. So that is all I have to show on this side. I'm going to turn it back over to Antonio, if that's all right. You there, Antonio?
It's actually going to be over to Rick, and he's going to be able to introduce Andrew.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Now I introduce Andrew. All right, so up next here we've got up next we got Andrew. He's the Fortinet channel account manager for New York and New Jersey. He's been in the industry for over 12 years, spent mostly within the channel itself, large value-added resellers, managed security providers, distributors, and now with Fortinet. So with that, I turn it to Andrew.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, appreciate the ATEC team welcoming me here today. Let me share my screen really quickly, and we are off and running. 1 second. All right, so I mean, really quickly from the Fortinet side, I wanted to just quickly introduce, and make everybody aware of the Fortinet fabric that you'll consistently hear from our side, from ATEC, and then our CTAP program, which Rick had alluded to earlier. Really quick introduction just to Fortinet in general. You'll see we are a $400 billion last year. We've been around for 20 years. We're continually adding to our security fabric as a whole. So, everything we do is from a strategic engineering standpoint in order to give that whole networking security mesh that you'll hear in just a moment as well, too. So, I mean, really, the Fortinet Security Fabric platform is built on a cybersecurity mesh architecture. Gartner had announced recently, and I'll quote, an architectural approach to create a collaborative ecosystem of security tools operating beyond the traditional perimeter. So really, the security fabric provides a suite of best-of-breed solutions, all working together, organically built from the ground up to provide the best integrations, in the industry. Traditionally, cybersecurity has been deployed one solution at a time in response to emerging threats and challenges. But while each new security solution, typically from a different vendor, provided gains in that security, everything wasn't designed to integrate and communicate effectively with other solutions. So that's really where Fortinet has put the emphasis on. This next slide is a nice visual to show everything that we're supporting. Next is our CTAP, which the ATEC folks are incredibly tremendous at running this program, and from a technical standpoint, it's great. It's not just a sales tool; it really will help your organization really find out if there are threats or gaps or anything like that as well in your within your system. We currently have 3 types of CTAPs for the cyber threat assessment program: next gen firewall, email, and SD-WAN, each with their own specific purpose and desired outcomes. For instance, next gen firewall, we want to identify security risks and understand general network usage. You'll learn more about application vulnerabilities that are attacking your network, malware, botnets, if they were detected, and even pinpoint at-risk devices within the network. Making sure your existing security solution isn't letting anything slip through the cracks. According to a number of research and consulting firms, Gartner, NSS Labs, even the FBI, the increase in severe exploits, malware variants, just the expected traffic to be encrypted is all on the rise over the next year and will continue to. So, I mean, it's just, your networking teams are going to find that invaluable to, figure out and identify any of those possible threats. When it comes to our email CTAP, increasingly, most organizations are migrating to Office 365. Email security, it continues to be a critical part of an organization's layered defense against cyber attacks. I have a stat here. According to the latest Verizon DBIR, business email compromise has doubled in the past 12 months. And what we're asking is, how effective are your current email filters? Are email recipients exposed to unwanted or inappropriate content? Ransomware, average breaches, again, all of that on the rise. The cyber threat assessment program can really speak to that as well too, from an email perspective. And then lastly, our third portion of that CTAP is the SD-WAN technology. The goal really is to validate application performance, cloud connectivity optimization, secure posture, and operational costs of your WAN edge. It's going to ask you what applications. This is examples of the report that you will get back, in terms of charts, renderings, flexibilities, recommendations from us. Again, really, it's high level. It's not going to call out specific Fortinet products or anything like that. This is really something that you can just take back and have internally for your organization just to understand, where those gaps are. And then, so SD-WAN, I mean, what applications are used, how they're used within your network, how you're securing the traffic, breaking out locally from the branch, all of that. What is it? 40% of enterprises plan to deploy SD-WAN over the next year. So, I mean, uptime is the #1 concern for cloud initiatives. So all of those programs easily run. I mean, we do those night and day internally here at Fortinet. The ATEC group is incredibly well skilled at running those as well. So anything you guys need from that perspective, please feel free to reach out. That's it for myself.
Thank you, guys. We're going to jump over to the main screen again, and Lane with ATEC Group is going to read off some of the questions we had for our presenter. Give me 1 second. Perfect. First question is for Joe.
All right, Joe, how difficult is it to set up Cloud Insights?
Great question. So really, to start a trial, you go to cloud.netapp.com. There's a small VM that we use as, we'll say, like a proxy between your infrastructure, whether it's on premise or in the cloud. And we kind of route all that traffic through 8443, but it's pretty simple to set up. You can do it, you can get set up and start collecting data within 5 to 10 minutes if you have the firewall ports open.
Another question for Joe here. What are the main benefits to using Cloud Insights?
Well, really, the main benefits are the visibility you get, both your on-premise and your cloud assets, really in one window. From a performance perspective. So, we're able to look at microservices, we're able to look at full service paths, applications, feed that data to CMDB, such as ServiceNow, OpenRest API. There's a lot of great benefits to the product. So there's a lot of different use cases, anything from capacity planning, cost justification of your cloud assets, you name it.
All right, we have one more question. It is one more question with Joe.
This is Joe. All right, so Joe, what if my business is it not in the cloud? What should I consider moving? Why should I consider moving? I'm sorry.
So one of the big benefits to Cloud Insights for someone that's on premise is when you have a monitoring suite of tools, you have to maintain those, right? So there's patches to all the servers. There could be software updates to the actual monitoring software itself.
Fortinet guy's name.
Yeah, so I mean, there's lots and lots of benefits. We take care of that for you, since it's on the SaaS environment.
Andrew?
Sorry, I was on mute. What was that?
No, keep going, Joe.
No, I think that did it.
Oh, okay. Well, all right, so we got two questions for Andrew. And then Wayne right here.
All right, so Andrew with Fortinet, what precautions does Fortinet take for data privacy?
Yeah, so we use the EU's GDPR as a basis for maintaining our strict privacy. Each assessment type has a data privacy notice that we can send. So I mean, we try to adhere to that as much as possible, or we do adhere to that.
And Andrew, will CTAP disrupt my network?
No, so yeah, that's fairly common as well too. In terms of an ask, built to minimize any impact on the network. They're all in listen only or a sniffer mode. So they're going to be running. Ideally, we always want to ask partners to run them, during normal business hours as much as possible to get that true sample image of that program. But yeah, there will be no impact towards that degree.
Got it. So we're going to bring Franco on. So, all right. I feel like I should be telling you guys the specials, but what we're going to do is we're going to bring Franco up here, and he's going to show you how to take all the goodies in your box that we sent you and turn them into a pizza. So with that, welcome Franco Rua. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lane. Thank you. So my name is Franco Rua. This is Café Capriccio. Welcome. It's nice to be. I'd like to thank ATEC. It's nice to be working with you guys again. We did something similar to this around Christmas time. It was really successful, and it's really great to be doing it again. We just went on. Actually, hey Dad, come here. Just say hi quick. We just went on. We're gonna get into making pizza. We're Café Capriccio. This is my father, Jim. He started the restaurant 40 years ago. We've been on Grand Street trying to do authentic Italian food for 40 years. This is our 40th year, so it's a big milestone for us. It's nice to have you guys here, and we're happy to be sharing these products with you and showing you how we make pizza here. So
Honored and delighted.
So he's actually working tonight. I took the night off to hang out with you guys and play with this with these things here. So we'll get right into it. So we put together. Well, I would also like to thank Lane, because Lane is this is a family business. My father and I work together every day. Lane has been our neighbor for many years. And he's really part of the family as well. Among a lot of our employees are like that. But Lane is special to us. So thank you, Lane. It's good to be with you. All right. So yeah. So thank you, Dad. Have a good night. So they asked us to do to put a box together so that you guys can make pizza, and we can show you how we do it here. We try and make authentic Neapolitan pizza, and we put something together that will allow you to do that, something similar to that at home. So the number one thing, flour. we included this 1 kilo bag of Caputo flour. This is the flour company milled in Naples. This is type 00 flour. It would be similar to a close to what we call all-purpose flour in the United States. In Italy, they use 00, 00. We use pastry flour, all-purpose flour, bread flour. It's really a function of the amount of protein in the flour. For us, the pastry flours have less protein, so they're softer. The bread flours have slightly more protein, so they're firmer. This one would be sort of in between cake flour and all-purpose flour. You can make a great pizza with all-purpose flour. A lot of restaurants make it with the bread flour. I would suggest, make it with this. And if you're really into it, you could experiment with different types of flours, even mixing them to different effects. So 00 flour, this is a 1 kilo bag. The recipe we gave you is for this entire bag. We also included a bottle of really great extra virgin olive oil. This is a Sicilian oil. It is an everyday oil. You can use this to cook, use it to finish pasta dishes. This is a great oil. We included the wild Sicilian oregano. So this is oregano picked in the mountains of Sicily, dried on the stem. You'll see it has a very unique quality. Being dried on the stem, when you break it, it really holds its aroma and character. It's very strong. Use it sparingly because it is strong. It's delicious. We included some Parmigiano Reggiano. Obviously, most pizzas are based around mozzarella cheese. Unfortunately, mozzarella cheese doesn't needs refrigeration, so we didn't include that. But Parmigiano Reggiano is usually always included along with mozzarella, and it's the king of Italian cheeses and maybe the king of all cheeses in the world. So we gave you a wedge of that and some soppressata. Obviously, pepperoni pizzas are very popular. I like to use high quality salami in place of pepperoni, and it gives a special quality, slightly elevated to regular pepperoni. Obviously, so for the dough, we do the flour and then yeast and salt. I pre-portioned the yeast and salt to be the exact amount to go with this 1 kilogram of flour. So there is 3 grams of yeast, which is about a half a pack of a packet of yeast that you would buy in the store, and 20 grams of salt. I am using metrics because it's easier, especially for salt. The denser the salt, going by weight is important, because if you have a very fine grained salt, a tablespoon of that will be equal to 2 tablespoons of something like sea salt. So 20 grams, 3 grams. Really, just experiment with that if you're making it on your own, and go by weight if you have that. If you have a little scale, it's a great tool. I would recommend getting one for your kitchen. And this is Italian sea salt that we used, and we also used Italian yeast, prepackaged, measured for this recipe. And then we also included a jar of sauce. The classic Neapolitan pizzas are tomato sauce with basil. This one has a really beautiful basil characteristic. It's included in the sauce, and it tastes like fresh basil. It's really good sauce. And that's it. So I will show you how to make the dough. It's very easy. This is a simple dough. Flour, salt, yeast, and water. So we're going to use the entire 1 kilo bag, which is 2.2 pounds. 00 Italian flour. I will just add the salt and the yeast right to it. Some yeasts need to be mixed in the water and allowed to sit for a while. This yeast is instant and it doesn't require that. So you can add it directly into the flour. It's called instant yeast. If you use the fresh yeast or an active dry yeast, you would have to add it to the water and let it sit a couple minutes. Then we have the water measured out. This is 600 milliliters of water, which is about 2.5 cups. I put the recipe, there's a piece of paper with a QR code that links to a recipe on our website, which is this recipe. So 600 milliliters of water. Now, always when you're making a dough, I would add most of the water and then go slowly, because there's different variables like the ambient humidity, the moisture in the flour, that kind of thing. So add some of it and then start to mix it. Now I'm doing it by hand. Now you could also use the KitchenAid mixer, but I think doing it by hand is easier because not everybody has a KitchenAid. If you have the KitchenAid, it's even easier. Now the thing about pizza is it's not instant gratification. Just like any kind of bread recipe, you have to. It's not a lot of active work, but there's waiting for it to rise, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to just think a little bit ahead of time, make it, a few hours ahead of time, even a day ahead of time, maybe even better, because you get a little more flavor when you let it rest in the refrigerator overnight. And so with just a little bit of foresight, you can have your own homemade pizza dough. Incidentally, this is basically a bread recipe too. So you could use this and make bread with almost identical handling preparation. So if you were doing this in the KitchenAid, I would put all the dry ingredients in and then turn it on low. Use the dough hook attachment if you have it, which I'll show you. We have it here.
All right, so we got a question here. I don't know who it's from.
Sure. Yeah. Feel free to ask any questions.
So, what's the minimum amount of time I can wait for the dough to be ready?
Okay, so basically, the way the dough rises is a function of heat. If you're in a temperature, if you're in a hurry, you want pizza that night, you can make the dough and let it rise in a warm place. Maybe on top of your oven, if that's possible, inside of your oven with maybe the light on only. And so, I'm going to tell you that this takes 2 hours to rise initially, and then another 1 to 2 hours after the first rise. But if you put it in a warm place, it could take 40 minutes and then another, 20 minutes. So the minimal time would be, probably two, maybe 3 hours from flour to pizza.
All right, so I got another one here. I'm not sure about this. What hydration percent is optimal?
Okay, so for this, it would be about 60%. This is 60%. 1 kilo of dough of flour, 600 milliliters of water is 60%, because the metric system works very well. I'm not going to say that it's better, but that's exactly 60%.
So if you cut that in half, you cut this in half, you're good to go.
Yeah, and with that, you can just, adjust it in any direction. Start with the amount of flour times 0.6. That's how much water you use.
And I saw a question about the QR code of the recipe. We're going to put that on the website.
Okay, so now I was saying, if you did this in the KitchenAid mixer, I used the hook attachment, which this is what is used to knead the dough for you. If you don't have this, some people don't. Most of them come with the whisk attachment and this. You could use this attachment, and it will get you a dough that you can then knead, and you can skip the, messy do it by hand thing, then take it right to the cutting board and knead it and, not have messy hands. But you could also do this the whole way, and then just mix it. Once the dough forms, have it knead for 10 minutes. So that's what you have to do. So the dough comes together, and then I put it onto a flour board. If it's in the KitchenAid, you're not adding more flour, but obviously you need to add flour if you're going to put it on the board because it is sticky. So then
I just saw another question here, and they're asking about a thin crust recipe. So
this is thin crust.
yes, so basically this pot or this pizza is
Well,
pretty delicate pizza.
yes, but as I said, this is also a bread recipe. You could make this thick crust. This is a very basic bread recipe. And you could really make bread with this. You could make rolls with this. You could make thick cut crust pizza dough. We make the Neapolitan style, which is going to be thin crust, which you'll see. And so, it's versatile, bread, anything. So you need it for 10 minutes about. Now in a mixer like this, you can over knead it. So make sure you don't do that. By hand, it's pretty hard to over knead it. Doing it by hand will make a softer dough because the mixer beats the dough up a little bit more. We use a special mixer in the restaurant that sort of simulates like doing it by hand style.
All right, Frank, one more question here. If you make the dough a day or two before using it, do you rest it covered on the counter or do you refrigerate?
So it always has to be covered or else it'll dry out. I'll talk about how you rest it in a moment. So we'll get to that point. And that'll touch on that other point about can I speed it up or, can I slow it down? So basically we're kneading it for 10 minutes. All we're doing is hydrating the flour and creating the gluten that's going to allow the dough to stretch. If you don't mix it enough, the gluten won't form itself. And if you try and stretch it, it will just tear. So I'm not going to go and mix this completely for 10 minutes because you sort of get the idea. And what you really want to look for is a smooth dough that's totally incorporated and not lumpy at all. And one way to test if the gluten, could you put that over there for me, is take a little piece to test if the gluten has formed. You take a piece and you try and stretch it very thin, and so thin enough that it's translucent and you can see light through it. Obviously, I didn't mix it for 10 minutes, so you see it's tearing. So that would show you that the gluten hasn't formed and the dough won't stretch properly. So you knead it just for 10 minutes, and just like this, you fold it into itself. Keep folding it into itself. Like this, if you're doing it on the board, add a little flour if it gets sticky, and keep going. Usually around 10 minutes of doing that is plenty. Take a little piece, stretch it out, see if you can get it very thin without it tearing. So after 10 minutes, this is what it's going to look like. Then when it's like this, you let it rise for 2 hours, about. If it's in a warm place, it could be 45 minutes to an hour. If it's in a cold place, it could be overnight. I would recommend doing the first rise not refrigerated, although you can do that as well. But do the first rise outside of the refrigerator for 2 hours until it's doubled in size. So this is what it looks like when it's done. I would put it in an oiled bowl, either spray it with pan spray, any kind of pan spray you might have. If you don't have that, you could put a little olive oil on a paper towel and wipe it. And you put it in, you can even do it directly in the bowl if that's what you're doing, or a mixing bowl. And you can see that it's doubled in size. Now I made this maybe 4 hours ago because that's the way that time worked out today. But this is doubled in size. if not more. And so that's what you're looking for. And so after 2 hours, it's doubled in size. You can go and carefully remove it from the bowl. I sprayed it with oil, so it shouldn't be very sticky. Get it to loosen up. Put a tiny bit of flour down. You don't want too much flour because it will get clumpy. So work it out of the bowl slowly. And then this, we make about the traditional Neapolitan style is 10 to 12 inch pizzas, fairly thin crust, not ultra thin crust, but thin crust. And they're 9 ounces. So this particular recipe will give you pretty much 6 9-ounce portions. So after it's risen for 2 hours, divide it into 6 pieces. If you want to weigh them and make sure they're exact, you can. If not, it's pretty easy to just cut them into, what looks to be the right size portions. And then you have to form them into the dough balls. Now, the technique here is similar to the original kneading process, but you want to form it into a very tight ball, like this, by folding it into itself and then sealing the bottom well so that there aren't any holes there. So again, you take the dough, you fold it into itself, trying not to break the surface. Keep folding it into itself and pinch the bottom so that it's sealed. If say you didn't pinch the bottom, one way it's also to do it on the board like this. You can end up with a little hole here, and when it rises, that will be a weak spot in the middle of the dough that could potentially break, which isn't too much of a problem for a home cook because we don't really fidget with the pieces very much. But for us, where we're cooking them in the wood-fired oven, it's an issue. So form them into the dough balls, and then spray them, lightly spray or wipe with oil, and then put them on. Try and leave them with enough space. If you're going to make it quickly, if you're going to make this in an hour or so, crowding them on the pan is not so much of an issue. But if you're going to let them rise more, then you might want to put them on separate pans because they will double in size. So they will double depending on how much you do. So like I said, this is the second rise. And after this rise, they're ready to cook. So in this case, especially in a warm place, these would be ready to make pizzas with in 20 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes. At this point, and I would suggest if you have the time, and it makes it easy this way as well, because you do that, then you put this in, cover it with plastic wrap. You might even want to spray the interior, the plastic that's going to touch the balls with the pan spray so that they don't stick. You could also cover it with a sturdy cotton kitchen towel and refrigerate it until the next day. When you let it rise slowly, you get a lot more flavor out of the dough, similar to like the way that sourdoughs ferment over long periods of time, and you get that nuanced flavors from the dough. That's from allowing them to ferment slowly. So if you put this in the refrigerator, you're going to get more. You're going to get more flavor out of it. You can also make it the same day and have pizza in 3 hours. If you do refrigerate it, make sure you pull it out at least an hour before you make them so that they can warm up and they're easy to stretch. Questions are.
All right, so someone wants to know how many pizzas does a restaurant sell average per day, or to go, backyard, down here?
Yeah, well, honestly, pizza is not, here at Cafe Capriccio, we make our own pasta, we make our own bread. You know, we have lots of beautiful fresh appetizers, entrees. So we have a pretty big menu, not a very big restaurant. Pizza is you know, an important thing. It's something we love. We're actually making a pizza food truck with another oven. So we love selling pizzas, and we sell about, you know, 30 to 50 a day would be something. So it isn't a huge amount, pretty small volume, you know, from what we do.
All right, so one more here. So how many can the pizza kit feed? Looks like 6 pizzas.
6 pizzas. I mean, my kids split one of these sometimes. As appetizers, these, you know, will feed
2 or 3 people.
yeah. And you know, or I mean, in Italy, when you order a pizza, usually you get one pizza uncut with a fork and a knife. You get a salad, pizza, that's your dinner. So, you know, 6 dinners with an appetizer, or, you know, more from that if you're sharing. Okay, so to reiterate, this will be ready to make pizzas with in anywhere from 40 minutes to the next day, depending on what temperature you keep it at. So these, if Lane, if you'll be so kind, you could take that over there.
Yeah.
These doughs here have been rising overnight, and I pulled them out an hour or so ago. And these may have been refrigerated a couple days. Even the more you keep them, the more flavor you're going to get. Now, eventually the yeast will run out of life, and then they won't work anymore. So there is a shelf life, which if you're not refrigerating it will be a few hours. If you are, a couple days. But these should have a lot of flavor. So and you can see how they've sort of grown a little bit if you know, compare when I first molded to what it is now, and they will grow even more than that. So if you are going to let them go for a little time, make sure you give them space, because it makes it easier to remove them. And if you remove them while they're still round, it's easier to keep them round. I know when I buy the pizza dough at the grocery store, when it's in a bag, it's hard to get it to come out round, and then it's almost impossible to make it round once you cross that bridge. So those are good. So it's always good when you're working with it to have a little bit extra flour. Also, maybe even people use cornmeal to put under the pizza to make it easy to slide off. The way that we make the pizza, we cook it directly on the floor of the wood-fired oven. I would highly recommend, if you are going to do it in your own oven at home, to have a pizza stone. You can certainly do this on a pan. You can, you know, do it. There's a lot of different techniques to do it, but I'm going to show you how assuming you have a oven at 500 degrees preheated with a pizza stone, how to cook it directly on the pizza stone. With one of these is a pizza peel. I'll make it on here, put some flour down. You could use cornmeal, which will make it even easier to slide off, and then just slide it into the oven. It takes a little bit of practice, but it's the best way to cook the underside enough as well as the top. So
So we have looks like Steve. Do they flatten on their own? So Franco's about, I believe, to get to that.
yes. So now I'm going to show you how you handle it from here. So I put a little bit of flour down. This little tool, this dough scraper, which is made for dough, is really useful, not just for this purpose, but other things, you know, picking up chopped onions. So anyways, this is a good tool to have, you know, that's useful beyond this, but it's particularly good to use with dough. So getting underneath it, and maybe you want to, you know, it always helps to have a little bit of flour. You don't want too much flour, but a little bit will help to keep it from sticking. And then put it down, flour it a little bit. You know, as I said, not too much. So from this state, I start by just flattening it out. I never use a rolling pin because I flatten it completely, but I leave the crust unflattened. So I think it's important to start by flattening it completely and evenly, like that with your fingertips. If it seems like it's sticking, do a little bit more flour. A wooden surface is good. Obviously, we use marble, which is the traditional surface that's the best because it stays cool. It doesn't stick. Wood is fine. Even metal will work. Any kind of natural stone is probably the best. So flatten completely, leaving about a 1/4 inch of the crust unflattened. Then you can either start to move it like this and just slowly stretch it out. You could pick it up and, slowly, lightly stretch it. You want to be delicate with it. And then like this. So like I said, we make them 9 to 12 inches. I like to start by making it a little bit smaller. One thing is that the center is always going to be the weakest part. So you want to make sure the center is not too thin and not overly topped. So I will put it right on the pizza peel with a little bit of flour. Again, cornmeal is helpful if you have it and want it, but flour is fine. I'll start by. Go ahead.
So is there a way to know if the pizza is too thin, if the dough is too thin?
Well, like I said, if you do 6 equal portions, they're going to be around 9 ounces, 10 to 12 inches. Now, if you wanted to double that size, you could get to be 18 to 20 inches. So really, it's a function of the size of the dough ball. So this, if it's 9 ounces, you could have it, 8 to 10 inches. It's going to be, 10 to 12 inches is going to be pretty thin, but not too thin. If you made it 14 inches, it would be extremely thin, which is totally doable.
You'd be able to see through, get translucent.
Yes, which is fine, and because it is also going to grow when you cook it. So, but I would just say if you're doing it like that, you shouldn't be able to see through it. It should be thin, but not too thin. I would start by just stretching the 9 ounce ball to 10 inches, and that's the thickness that we use. So it takes about, I'll make a classic pizza margherita, and then I'll make one with just the ingredients that we gave you as well, because it's possible to do that as well. I'm going to show you how to cook it in our wood-fired oven. Obviously, some of you may have a wood-fired oven. Most of you probably not. So I'll talk about how it's done in a regular oven, which I do all the time at my own house. There's other ways to, there's other kinds of ovens as well. So about 2 to 3 ounces of sauce. You don't want too much. We in the restaurant, we use just crushed tomatoes, unseasoned. And cooking them in the wood-fired oven, it sort of it thickens them on just that intense heat of the oven. I would recommend doing it at home to use a sauce that's slightly thicker because you don't have the benefit of that 1,000-degree temperature. So some people like more sauce. Honestly, you can do whatever you want. The pizza is a blank canvas. There's many ways you can top it. So a light coating of sauce. I have some mozzarella here that here. So fresh mozzarella is what we use in the restaurant. We make it ourselves. This is a product that you could get. I will say that if you use, this is our own homemade. If you do buy mozzarella that's fresh, it does tend to be a little watery. Again, when we cook it in the wood-fired oven, it sort of evaporates more and gets drier. You may find if you use the fresh mozzarella at home that it's watery. In that case, you know, a really good low moisture shredded mozzarella might be better for you. But a lot of people like the flavor of the fresh. So that's something you can experiment with. So a little bit of sauce, the fresh mozzarella, and the basil's already in the sauce. So tomato sauce, fresh mozzarella, basil, and olive oil is the classic margarita. That is usually always accompanied by a fresh shaving of the Parmesan cheese that we included. Freshly grated, it's always better, but obviously grated close to when you're using it is fine. And we'll use, so the oregano we gave you is really, really nice. The way that you deal with that is you just take a stem out and it crumbles. And because it's on the stem, it releases a lot of the aroma, more aroma than if you get it pre-dried. And the dried oregano, especially this, has a very characteristic flavor that in many ways is better than fresh oregano. So we'll do that even though this isn't the classic margarita. It's a blank canvas, we do whatever we want. So that, and then a little bit of olive oil, but I would be careful not to overdo it because you don't, you know, sometimes the oil comes out of the cheese. So put your finger over it and drizzle it slowly. So that right there is one pizza. One thing you want to just make sure it's moving on the board. Again, cornmeal helps with this. I'm just going to put this aside and then I'm going to show you another pizza that is just made with the ingredients that we included, and then we'll go over to the oven and we will cook it. So again, flatten it all the way out with your fingertips, leaving the crust. Make sure that it's not sticking, but don't overdo it, a little bit at a time. Stretch it evenly, 10 to 12 inches, more if you'd like. Again, you could always put this on a pan, then you don't have to worry about moving it around. Okay, so tomato sauce, a couple ounces. Leaving a little space on the edges for the crust.
So less is more on these pizzas because
For me, but if you like a lot of sauce, put more sauce.
it'll get moist in the middle, it might get a little droopy.
Yes. So again, the salami, you know, this is a very high quality salami. So it's going to be reminiscent of a pepperoni pizza, but on another level. It'll shrink, it'll toast, it'll be really good. And then a little bit of the oregano. Freshly crumbled. It really gets a nice character also, the way the oven toasts it, and it even releases more aroma that way. So, but go sparingly because it's very intense. A little bit of olive oil, and this is a pizza without mozzarella.
Wish I could tell you guys how good this smells.
Parmesan. And we'll put more of this on after it comes out. Oh, and now this way I should have made it on the pizza peel. Just to show you, but here, will you take this thing? Because that's much easier to do it that way, but it's also possible to do this. I wouldn't recommend trying this. Now, another thing is if you don't have a peel and you'd like to try and do it, You can do it on the back of a pie pan or something. Flip it upside down. Obviously, you don't want it under the rim, upside down. You can put it on there and it can, and the same thing, slide it. One thing that's important is you want to make sure it's sliding. You don't want to get to the oven and find that it's sticking, and then you go to put it in and it sticks. So just do this. Make sure it's going good, especially if you've done one that's been sitting there for a second. Make sure it's moving, and then we'll go to the oven. It's just over there. We're good? Yep. Okay, we'll see you at the oven. Oh, sorry. Good. And then, so in your home oven, at my home oven, this takes about 5 minutes, 500 degrees with a pizza stone, and it looks very similar to that. Okay, so maybe we could go out there and take a few more questions if they have it.
Sure,
and
sure.
Absolutely.
Well, they smell great and they're not gonna last very long.
Yes, and you can use the ATEC pizza cutter. I can tell you, I used the one in my house and they work great. They're really compact. Nice case so they don't get dull. But it was, I hope you guys enjoyed it.
So, important question here, knife and fork or fold it over New York style and boom.
I would say fold it right over and just
There
lay
it
into
goes.
it, you know.
Absolutely.
This really is ultimately street food. It really comes down to that. So, and
So Colin, I don't know, is Uni worth
that's
the
the
money?
uni. I've never used one. From what I see, it's only a few $100s, I think, as opposed to thousands of dollars for a wood-fired oven. And you can get pretty darn close. If you're a pizza lover, a wood-fired pizza lover, you follow this recipe with that uni, and it will be almost identical to wood-fired oven pizza. So if you're a pizza lover, it's worth the money, I think. And it heats up quickly, and it's easy. There you go. So yeah, so we'll have a link. I'll also put my email on there if anybody wants to email me a question.
So we'll have links on ATEC website. There is a link to all the recipes on the cafecapriccio.com website. You'll be able to go on there. We'll have a link to Cafe Capriccio on our website. So we'll all be linked up. We'll have all the recipes on there. I'm not speaking out of school. Antonio, that is correct.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. And we'd like to thank everyone for joining us. Most of the people that started tonight are still on, which is great. I hope you guys learned a little bit about pizza, about Cafe Capriccio, about ATEC, about storage, about the security fabric, a little bit of everything, right? So it's a great thing. If you're local, make sure you get down to Cafe Capriccio. We've been doing it for 40 years. We're the best restaurant in Albany, hands down. You should come and see us.
Thank you very much. It was nice being with you all.
Thanks, guys.